Okay. Mike Becker?
I love being able to
Next up, I'd like to call our July 16th special call meeting to order. I'd like to recognize Mr. Day for the pledge of invocation.
please join the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Bow your heads. Dear God, thank you for this day that we've been given. We pray for wisdom, strength, and guidance as we make decisions for the education of our children.
Amen. Thank you, John. Is there a motion to approve our short agenda?
I'll make the motion, Mr. Chair.
Take motion second.
Okay.
Griffin second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous. Thank you. And Dr. Jackson, our first official meeting, so I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, and I will say just an aside, I'm incredibly excited and honored to have this opportunity to serve this Board of Education, so thank you for this opportunity. Having just now gotten to my 16th day officially in the county, calendar day anyway, I can tell you that the school system is just as you shared it is. We are absolutely blessed with amazing, dedicated educators who are willing to do whatever it takes for our students. This morning, or this afternoon, I'd just like to very quickly share with you our process in creating our plans for reopening school. We certainly hope to have every single student in our buildings as soon as possible. We do have to follow the guidelines we've been given, and we will do that, and we'll do everything we can to keep our students and staff as healthy and protect their well-being as we can. And so I'd like to share with you that process. To look at the timeline, I'd like to advance the slide for me. First presentation is not supposed to mess up on me. Thank you, very good. So just looking very quickly at the timeline in terms of our reopening plan, we started on July 1st, my first day here in the school system. We started with 73 staff members from across the district. The 73 staff members represent principals, assistant principals, directors, teachers, cafeteria managers, custodians, school nurses, counselors, etc. So school system staff members from every employee group and from throughout the county, all three levels, east to west across the county. That was extremely important. In that first meeting, we discussed and looked at our guidance documents that we had been given, and I'll reference those in just a moment. The following week, our subcommittees, and I'll share those with you, we have 7 subcommittees, began to meet to research and digest the guidance. We have a significant amount of guidance that we've received from the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction and the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services, and really spent time understanding the guidance, doing the research, and then began to draft action steps for our schools, ultimately to create checklists for each school leadership team to ensure that we're doing all that we need to do. At that point, we started a weekly communication message. We have one that will be going out today as well, one to staff and one to parents and community members. As you know, it's incredibly important that we do a great job communicating to all of our stakeholders as we go through this process and to continue to assure them that we are going to do everything we can to protect our students and staff. This week, on the 13th, our full team met together, the 73 members. That was again via Zoom. Each of the 7 committees presented their draft recommendations and shared what they had learned as they did their research. And then, based on feedback from the full team, went back, made slight revisions. This morning, we met for about 2 hours to finalize our draft revisions. And so this weekend, we will be writing up the final plan so that we'll be prepared to bring that back to the Board of Education next week. As you know, on July 14th of this week, the governor did announce that we will open the school year as of now, and things change very rapidly, as you well know, using Scenario B. The governor initially required that all school systems plan for 3 scenarios, A, B, and C. A being minimal social distancing, so all students present in the building with social distancing guidelines. B was originally a guidance of 50% of the student population available. That changed on July 14th in the governor's announcement, so the requirement now is the number that you can successfully keep students 6 feet apart. We believe that that's still going to be approximately 50%, but we're going to do work measuring our classrooms. We have to consider our bathrooms, our hallways, et cetera, to see if there's any movement in that number. But that was a change on July 14th. And then scenario C is what we experienced starting on March 14th, which is remote learning for all students going forward. We know that the governor can move from one scenario to another based on conditions. And so part of our planning process was to create plans where a teacher could easily move from scenario B to C, from C to A, from A to B, depending on what the governor's announcement was made. So we want to make this as easy for our teachers to plan their lessons and instructional activities as things change as possible. And then July 22nd, we have a Board of Education meeting, and thank you for being so flexible, board members, with your schedules to be willing to meet more often than normal, but this is a very important time, and I appreciate your dedication. And at that meeting, we'll present to you the draft reopening plan and ask for your feedback and ultimately hope to receive your approval so that we can begin advertising the plan and sharing that information with parents. We are trying to be very careful with our communication. You know, we've had some rumors we've had to take care of as we've gone forward because there is a lot of questions. And so we're trying to make sure that we're really clear with our language and trying to avoid any confusion. I mentioned the guidance documents. The guidance documents, the 2 main guidance documents come from the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction, the second, the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services. The Lighting Our Way Forward, North Carolina's guidebook for reopening public schools, was sent out. That is a living document, and so there have been changes made, and so we're tracking those changes and making sure we're aware of them as they're made. The Strong Schools Public Health Toolkit, that's the document that changed on July 14th. And so this morning, we reviewed all the changes that were made, primarily around the scenario B and then a change in buses that I'll mention in just a second. And then we also are using a document from the American Academy of Pediatrics, a guidance for school reentry, trying to use all the information possible to make sure we protect our students and staff. So looking at our 7 committees. The first committee is our student and staff health and well-being. And on this slide, as we go through these board members, I've listed the employees and individuals who've been involved in this work, who are actually on the committees. And so the takeaway really, I hope, is just looking at the employees' positions in the school system. So in student, staff, health, and well-being, we have each committee is chaired by principals. On this committee, we have nurses, counselors, child nutrition, we have directors, principal, and assistant principals as well. And so this committee really looked at, from start to finish, how do we make sure our students are being kept healthy. And so they looked at cleaning standards in the building, requirements for disinfecting. They looked at health and wellness checks as students enter the building or prepare to get on the school bus. They look at ensuring that when the bus is finished, we're going to be disinfecting, even though we have another committee also looking at that. And so they really had the charge of keeping everyone healthy throughout the day. The second committee is our Instructional Delivery and Curriculum Committee. This committee, again, chaired by principals representing all 3 levels. You'll see we have teachers on the committee, instructional technology facilitators, directors, a large number of our curriculum and instruction directors, principal, assistant principals as well. This is the committee that has also been working with the remote learning plan. The state required when they changed the school calendar law, and I know that you had to address the school calendar law. When they made that change, one of the requirements was prior to scenarios A, B, and C, every school system had 5 remote instruction days be placed into the school calendar. At the moment that law was passed, they required that each school district have a remote instruction plan for how we would teach students when they were at home. And so that is guiding some of the work in our scenario B and scenario C. So when some of the students are home and when all all the students are home. They also worked on how can we improve teaching when our students are not in the building. We know that we did a phenomenal job with no preparation because we didn't know. On Friday, March 13th, the governor said we'd be in school. On Saturday, March 14th, he said we were staying at home. And so it changed very rapidly. Our teachers and the educators did an amazing job. We have time now to prepare, and so we certainly want to make sure we continue to improve to provide an excellent education for each of our children. The next committee is our athletics and extracurricular activities. North Carolina High School Athletic Association guides the high school athletics. We're modeling our middle school athletics on that, and that's traditionally done in the past, and we'll continue to do that as well. This committee also looked at, though, extracurricular activities. For example, bands. During the summer, we typically have band camp. One of the issues with this pandemic is that blowing forced air through an instrument exasperates the situation. So our band members at this point can't be practicing their instruments together. And so looking at what we can do during the summer became very important. And so we created a guidance document. Our Director of Fine Arts, Craig Everett, used and created a guidance document, and that's actually being used by several school systems. The document that was generated right here in Carteret County Public Schools, and so we're very proud of that. Also looked at things like field trips, as you would imagine, under scenario B and C. There are probably very few field trips. I can't imagine a field trip, quite frankly, right now, but we wanted to make sure we were planned for that. The High School Athletic Association this week just pushed back the fall athletic season to September 1st. That could potentially be pushed back at least twice more, depending on what's happening, before you would not be able to get the season in the fall. And there's some conversation about whether the fall season would be moved to later in the year, so all three seasons would be able to participate this year. It's their desire that the student athletes be able to participate. But this committee did a great job taking that guidance and putting it into our plan. The Transportation Committee, again chaired by principals. We were delighted to have our new transportation director be able to participate in this. We also had Mr. Guthrie from the Transportation Department, a school nurse, directors, our TIMS operator, and a van director, again, because we do use buses for more than just bringing students to and from school typically. The bus routing will be incredibly time-consuming and a logistical challenge. We will make it work, but it's going to take some work. And that's primarily because when the first guidance document came out, we were told we would only be able to place students on the bus 6 feet apart. The largest school bus in the state of North Carolina is a 72-passenger bus. Under those guidance numbers, we would only be able to place 12 students on the bus, which becomes almost logistically impossible to get our students to school before the day's well underway. We were able to, the change was made. That was part of the July 14th change, and so the rule now is one student per seat with the staggered seating. So row one, the student might be sitting by the window. Row two, they'd be sitting by the aisle, back and forth as you go through the bus. Siblings are allowed to sit together, and so that'll certainly help as well because they live together. And so this committee is looking at how do we do the routing under Plan B with not all of our students in the building at one time, and how do we do the scenario A or the A cohort, B cohort, et cetera, in terms of our routing. They're also charged with the health and wellness check, so that before any student gets on the bus, they have to be checked to make sure that they're healthy prior to putting them on the bus. And so they're doing that work as well. The next committee is our Facility Maintenance Committee, again chaired by principals. You'll see our facility director, teacher, lead custodian. We have some administrative interns working in the district this summer, assistant principal and principal. This committee was looking at how do we make sure our buildings are clean, how do we keep our buildings clean, how much cleaning and disinfecting has to take place during the day, because anytime we exit a room or someone new comes into a room, we have to disinfect the room. And so they have worked hard to make sure that we're prepared for that and that we have guidance for each of our schools and for our staff throughout the school district. They're also working on ensuring that we communicate to Plain James the expectations as well. As you know, we have some schools that are cleaned by school custodians and some schools cleaned by Plain James, and so we have to be prepared for both of those scenarios. The next committee is, thank you, Child Nutrition Committee, chaired by Principal Rolanda Golden, the cafeteria managers, teachers, directors, and a principal as well. With child nutrition, we looked at not only feeding the students who are present in the building, but feeding students who may not be present in the building and working through the logistics of that, ensuring that we were prepared to serve meals just as we always have in a very safe way. Students may be eating in their classrooms. We do have to maintain that 6-foot social distance, and so that where they actually eat may look different building to building based on the facility and the size of the cafeteria itself, because we do have to maintain that 6-foot distance. So this committee's been working on that plan. The final committee is our Communication and Stakeholder Engagement Committee, again chaired by principals. We have teachers and instructional technology facilitator and directors as well. This committee is charged with taking the work of all of the other committees and making sure that we're able to communicate it in a real and authentic fashion so that it's understandable for parents and guardians, so that teachers have all the information they need, so that schools, principals, and leadership teams also understand very clearly what they need to do to make sure we're keeping our students safe and guarding their well-being. This is the committee that generated the weekly video request, and so we've been happy to do that. I would like to mention that Mr. Probst, Mr. Paler, and I have been a part of all 7 committees, moving in and out so that we could help with the committee work, but the committees have been self-sufficient and doing a wonderful job, and so I'm certainly extremely proud of each of the individuals who've been a part of this work. The documents will all be sent to our leadership teams this weekend so that we'll have some feedback for the Board of Education from our leadership teams, teachers, and others when we come back together to approve the plan. I will also be meeting with all of our school nurses. We have had nurses on some of our committees, but I'll be meeting with all of our school nurses to ensure that they feel good about our plans and they give their stamp of approval. I'll also be meeting with the Health Department Director for their approval as well, so that when we bring the plan to the Board of Education, we try to talk to all of those you would want us to talk to as you consider the plan that we have for reopening our schools. And so I'll just end with the statement that is, nothing is more important, of course, than the health and well-being of our students and staff, and this has guided our work from the very start. And so we have come a long way in a very short amount of time, and that's a credit to the staff and employees, teachers, and principals of this school system. And Mr. Chair, this concludes the report. I'll be happy to answer any questions from Board of Education.
Question, Dr. Johnson?
Jackson, are we gonna have a nurse at each school? Because I think that's what the governor said, it has to be a nurse doing the checking, recording with the thermometer of each student and all that.
Mr. Godwin, I would love to have a school nurse at every single school. We do not currently have nurses at every school. That's certainly something I would like for us to be able to accomplish, not just in this moment, but going forward, because there are so many health issues that students are battling through. We do have to have health and wellness checks, and our nurses will be helping with the training for our staff. But as I understand the document, we do not have to have a nurse. Not required to have a nurse at every school. We would certainly love to, but we will use our nurses to train our staff to make sure that the health screenings at the schools and on the buses are being conducted properly.
I know he said, the governor said every student was going to be provided with 5 masks, reusable.
Yes, sir.
How do we know that those kids are going to be washing them and doing what they're supposed to, coming back to school the next day?
Yes, sir. So we certainly desire them to wash their mask, and we've actually started to begin to receive those masks. Unfortunately, school principals have dealt with students who have made poor choices in the past or who don't do what they're asked to do, and so we're really going to have to handle it just like we would anything else. So a lot of encouragement, phone calls to families, great communication. If we run into an issue where we feel like that's not happening, then we have the opportunity to involve our partners in the community to help with that family to get that work done. We will have some disposable masks if we have to use those as needed.
And my last question, I drove school buses in the past, and I know what washing one is and all that, but how are they gonna do this every day? How are we gonna make sure that this is done every day where bus driver's gonna wipe that bus down and all that each time, each morning, each afternoon, when they park the bus? How in the world are we gonna know that?
Yes, sir. Thank you for the question, and I look forward to sharing details with the board and further details next week. But Mr. Peterson has identified what's called a fogger. So essentially, we'll train staff to use a fogger who will start at the back of the bus and work to the front and actually fog the bus, and it disinfects the bus very quickly. We close the doors and we walk away. We'll need to do that every time the bus is used. And so being able to, and that's part of this planning process, do all the things we have to do in a very timely and efficient fashion. So that's part of our plan, and I think we've got a good plan for that, Mr. Cobb.
Okay, so we're gonna have money appropriated for those instruments of those foggers and all each time?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Realizing we don't have a lot of the specifics now because the committees haven't approved anything to present to us yet, are there any other questions regarding the overall plan? I want to applaud you for your approach to the 7 committees. I think that's a fantastic idea, and including as many people as you did. So, if there are no further questions, I know we have some closed session business. Is there a motion to go to closed session?
Mr. Chair, I will make a motion to go into closed session.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jenkins, second by Mr. Day. All those in favor, raise your right hand. We are in closed session. Thank you.
Okay.